After the rejection of the sugar report that has left Kenyans none the wiser on the safety of what they are consuming, another slap in the face as a process that was meant to address corruption has been marred by bribery allegations. Here's a brief of the string of the events so far.
Some of what we are selling around and mixing as sugar has got high contents of mercury.
There is no indication of anything like mercury that has been found in any of those sugars.
No traces of mercury have been found.
This report is just a joke of the highest order.
Half of his committee members were against, they voted against the report.
The 12th Parliament has also thrown away an entire report because of stomach shake.
Uchunguzi tutaanza kwa kiongozi wa walio wengi, Aden Duale. Kiongozi wa wale wachache kule bugeni, John Badi.
Right, and we have both of them. Kega is who was the chair, joint chair actually, of the parliamentary committee that investigated or did the investigation on the sugar scandal. John Badi is the minority leader. They were clearly on opposing sides. He's both sober. Thank you so much both for making time for us tonight. The rejection of the sugar report, as some would say, Honorable Kega, was largely expected because of the interests at play. I'll come back to that later. But you said, and we just heard, that Badi and Duale should be investigated. Why?
Thank you, Hussein. I'm happy you have called me honorable. But I want to say that Thursday last week was one of my lowest moments, because we did a report that we spent 45 days. It was like a roller coaster, because basically we were rushing from one area to another. We came up with a very, very good report, which I have in front of me here.
Despite the rush.
Yeah, despite the rush, actually. And we were dismissed by the leader of majority, together with his new found friend, the leader of the minority. In fact, during that time, I also described him as the deputy leader of majority. And for no reason, absolutely.
Why would you say that?
Because the issues that they raised, like the issues that he raised about the importers not being in the report, are well captured in the document that I have. So all the questions that were asked in the request for statement given by Honorable Naisura Lesuda were completely answered. But the reason I had an issue with the two is because, if you remember, we were told to give a preliminary report, which was actually an appraisal, appraise members on what we are doing. The same two leaders are the ones who stood on the floor of the House, dismissed the same report, progress report. I thought they would, during that time, they would tell us, thank you for the progress report that you have given us, but we would want you to focus on this and these particular areas. So for me, I had an issue of the two because of the way they handled themselves.
First, the two, of course, are very vocal in Parliament, as you saw. Honorable Badi is going to talk about that. But it wasn't the two only. This was rejected in the floor of the House.
Yes.
My question still stands. You're talking about the preliminary report, and I'll come to ask both of you later on why, or whether there's any standing order that talks about a report being debated in the House. But first, Honorable Kega, I'm still asking you the question, why would Badi be investigated? I'm asking this because we all know about the bribery allegations flying in Parliament. Why should Badi and Duale be investigated?
The reason I say that is because there were allegations. When I was moving my report on the floor of the House, you know, I could see the two of them. Of course, they were busy conversing with other people. They were not listening. They were actually not listening. And especially the leader of majority party was not listening. And actually was engaging other members. So for sure, they were not interested in this. So basically, that's the reason I said, if they were genuine, if there were no other extraneous issues, they would have listened to my submissions and then would have critiqued my submission. So basically, I thought, because he is the leader of the minority and the leader of majority, and they crossed ranks that particular day, which is very, very rare. I say definitely there must be some convergence of other issues, and that is the reason I said the two
should be investigated.
Absolutely.
Because of the bribery allegations? You believe they could have been bribed?
No, I don't think it's the issue of bribery, because I was on the floor of the House, and bribery, I think, took place, if it ever took place, outside the House.
Honorable Badi.
Really, I don't know what to respond to. But the point is, I don't think I led the rejection or mobilized people to reject.
He says it's so you're conversing.
For a record, I want to put it very clear that I never called a PG on this report. I did not whip members to vote in any particular manner. This is a motion that we allowed members to debate and vote with their conscience. The party could whip or crack the whip, but this is not a report that we did crack the whip. In fact, with the hindsight, I think that we should have called the PG as minority side and taken a firm position and discuss these issues before Parliament. Maybe in future that is what we will do. But regarding my participation in Parliament that day, I want to be very clear that I was very attentive when Honorable Kanini Kega was moving the motion. Of course, there could have been interruptions here and there. People were coming to ask you what is your view about this, but I tried as much as possible to keep them at bay. Now, regarding the investigation or otherwise, I don't think there is anything wrong with that. If anyone feels that any person needs to be investigated, it's perfectly in order. And I want to also put it clearly that there have been a lot of accusations from both sides. I think this matter needs a serious investigation so that it is unearthed.
From, I mean, you're
if there were people who were influenced.
You're both members of Parliament. Do you believe people were bribed? During the committee stage and during the
I want to speak on behalf of my committee. There were no bribery issues.
You can speak
I can
for yourself or for everyone?
I can speak as a chair. I want to speak on my own behalf and also on behalf of the committee because I am the chair of the committee. And I want to say very, very clearly that the report that we wrote was not influenced by anybody. It was just influenced by facts that were adduced and evidence that was brought before us.
Okay.
If we were bribed, we would have written this report, exonerating other people and also protecting other people. We didn't. We laid the facts bare, so that when I can tell you as a matter of fact that my committee of 38 members, I can vouch for them.
What about during the House, when tabling the report?
When tabling the report, as I told you, I was busy on the floor of the House.
So you don't know?
I don't know what actually happened outside the House.
Let me say it this way. First, there were allegations that the committees, the joint committee, or some members were compromised. This accusation came up very early. But this is informed by the behavior of the committee itself. Remember, during that debate, there were people who even invaded that committee in the name of friends of committees. And at one point, you could see acrimony in that committee. That acrimony, you could hear people saying that it's because some members were influenced. I'm happy the chairman managed. In fact, at one point, I was watching the committee from my office. It was being covered live, and I thought he was going to lose it. But fortunately, stamped his authority. So there were those allegations. There are allegations that the reason why this report was not so hard on importers is because of compromise. There was, and maybe the chairman can respond to that. Yeah. No, just let me finish this. Yeah. There was also allegation because you remember the committee was divided. Some members of the committee came out and disowned the report. When you see members owning a report which they have participated in, and by the way, some of all those members who disowned the report, Honorable Simbarati and Honorable Dan Manzo, signed the report. I have seen their signatures. So it leaves you with the question of, was there some external influence or not? But finally, on the debating day, there were a lot of allegations and accusations of people being bribed either to shoot the report, or people being bribed to bring amendments to the report, or to support amendments. Yeah. So there were those accusations, but I will tell you for a fact, as the leader of minority, I did not witness, so I cannot vouch for it.
Of course, we know initially when the Speaker actually accused members of the committee and told you to stop hugging and kissing with some of those importers that you are getting submissions from. Honorable Mbadi, then let's go to the substantive issues here. Why would you say this report is a joke? And Honorable Kanini Kega has raised an issue. You didn't start now. In the preliminary stage, when they gave the progress report, you also rejected. You've gone ahead to reject it again. You said the same thing. This report is a joke. Why would you say that? The report in its entirety, you don't agree with it?
Hussein, first of all, this is the type of report we call a special report. a special report of a committee addresses a specific issue. Why did it become necessary for the joint committees to investigate this matter? It is because there was allegations that the sugar that we consume in this country is unfit for human consumption. And Naisuda Lesuda asked a statement in Parliament on 19th of June whether the sugar we consume is fit for human consumption, and if it is not, who brought that sugar that is unfit for human consumption. Now, the committee, you know, a report like this has a format. It runs from the chairman's forward, goes to executive summary, goes to the body of the report, and then to observation, and finally to recommendations. I will tell you, this needs to point towards the same direction and the same objective. If you look at this report, the committee had set TOR, and prominent in it was the source of the contraband sugar and the entities which brought the contraband sugar. Honorable Kaniri Kega is saying that this report, by the way, I've read this report from page 5 to page 62, and he has alluded annexures. What is important in a report is recommendations. I have looked at the recommendations, and I do not see how the recommendations that are in this report is tackling the pertinent issue of the sugar that we consume in this country. Is it fit for human consumption or not? And who brought that sugar? The list that it's talking about is a list of all the importers who imported sugar in this country last year. It is not all importers who imported sugar, imported bad sugar. There must be specific importers or specific entities which brought that bad sugar.
All right.
I would love to see if he has that list.
And as you respond, just for the sake of viewers, some of the TOR, according to your report, was to establish whether the sugar imported during the 2017 duty-free window was fit for human consumption. There's to establish measures in place to ensure that sugar in the market is safe for human consumption. To inquire whether there is contraband sugar in the market and measures regarding the same. To establish if the required procedures were followed in the importation of sugar under the 2017 duty-free window and the disposal mechanisms for the unfit sugar and contraband goods. He's raising issues. Did you really answer the questions that you were supposed to answer?
Absolutely we did. And actually we went beyond the questions that we asked. And it's because of a very simple reason. If you are a policeman and you are told that some money has been stolen somewhere and it is hidden in a particular house, and if you go to the house, you find money, and on top of that, you find a gun, will you say that you are not going to also include that you have also found a gun in the same house? That is what they are telling us, that we should have just focused on the questions that were asked and not dwell on any other evidence that we stumble upon.
He's saying we did not even answer the questions that were supposed to be asked.
And I will take you through, because basically, look at the document that he has. Look at it's actually a paper. In Parliament, we call it, like, that's a paper. But this is a total document. I have tabled a document. For him, he is tabling a paper.
With annexes?
With annexes. With all the companies that imported sugar. First of all, we answered the question of whether there is mercury or not.
Did you?
We did.
How?
And I want to read it because it is in the observations. It is actually the observations that inform the recommendations. And you cannot, there are some things that you cannot put in the recommendations if you have put them in the observation. And if you look at observation 4.3, it says clearly, no traces of mercury were detected in the samples collected from seized sugar and from market surveillance by KEBS. KEBS tested two categories of sugar samples. The first category was drawn from consignment seized by the multi-agency task force, Annex 14, while the second category was collected by KEBS market surveillance team from various outlets across the country, Annex 15. These market surveillance samples were collected from outlets mostly frequented by members of the public. Also to add, on 4.6, to date, KEBS has drawn a total of 261 samples from 45 counties, with the exception of Tana River and Madeira through market surveillance routine check. That one tells you that it is not us who had that information, it is KEBS, because we didn't even have the equipment to do the testing. We were relying on other agencies, and we clearly put it in the observation.
Okay. The report actually goes ahead. You will. The report actually goes ahead, because you have to move fast. Say that the Ministry of Health indicated that one sample out of 5 samples from Moi Air Base in Nairobi tested positive for mercury, and also talked about the other samples that tested positive was in Bungoma County, specifically Webuye West. Yes. Tested positive for mercury. These are observations.
Yes.
Let's go back to the question, Honorable Kanini Kega. Yes. It is to establish whether sugar imported during the duty-free window was fit for human consumption. Has that question been answered? You're talking about observations. You're talking about observations by these agencies.
I want to read further because it's good to read the document in its entirety. There is 4.1 which says a subsequent report submitted by the Ministry of Health indicated that 1 sample out of 5, but down there, the committee's effort to establish the ownership details of the vacancy were unsuccessful because the contaminated sugar is under seizure by the multi-agency team. We called the multi-agency team to come before us.
Okay.
On 3 occasions. Listen, on 3 occasions, they refused. We called KEBS, who actually gave these supplementary findings to come before us to own those supplementary findings or validate them. They refused. Lastly, we sent through Parliament, who are paid through Parliament. We engaged Nairobi University and KEFIS to do independent tests, to undertake independent tests. We sent them to Moya Base. They were denied entry. Okay. We sent them also to Bungoma. They were denied entry. Okay. And we captured all that. All right. Who denied them entry? The multi-agency team, which had actually taken custody of the goods. So basically, we were not able to validate whether the said 2 samples had mercury.
Okay.
That is not from KEBS, that is from government chemists.
Fine, my question you're very right, and with all due respect. My question still remains, is the sugar imported, according to your TOR, was the sugar imported in the 2017 duty-free window fit for human consumption? That's the question Kenyans want to know. Do you know or you don't know?
That's a difficult question to say yes or no, because we have
you did not answer according to your TOR.
We did answer according to the information that we got.
Okay.
Let me finish. Hussein, we were relying on information given to us by other agencies. So right?
Can I just
and I have said clearly that from the report that we got from Kenya Bureau of Standards, for 45 counties, save for Tana River and Mandera, there were no traces of mercury. So that is the report I want to go by, that there were no traces of mercury. When we called Matiang'i, the one who came up with that famous pronouncement that there was mercury, he himself said that it was a cautionary issue. Precautionary.
But you also accused of not putting him to task when he said it was a precautionary matter.
We did. So we even went on camera.
Let me just respond.
Yeah, so respond. The question was answered.
So Hussein, that is why we rejected this report. Listen, Honorable Kanini Kega is talking about the documents he has, which I don't have. Those are simply annexures. And by the way, you don't expect me to carry annexures. And these annexes, just a minute. Mheshimiwa Kanigi, I have been in this bunge. This is my 12th year. And I have experience in reading committee reports. So first, the annexures are attached. And the annexures that are attached actually has just the list of those who imported sugar, not specifically the bad sugar. But come to your question. You see, on the recommendations, the committee must talk about quality of sugar, because that is the reason why we sent them out to go and investigate this matter. You cannot say it is under observations and you leave recommendations. By the way, on the recommendations, I've read these recommendations, just a minute, and that is why it is deficient. This recommendation is not tackling the question of whether there is the sugar in the market is fit for human consumption or not. And if Honorable Kanini Kega is saying that they were denied that entry, first, who is in charge of that multi-agency team? It's a cabinet secretary. Where is it? The committee then should have been very hard on that cabinet secretary. Why is it that that cabinet secretary has been let off the hook and he has interfered with the investigation? In fact, that to me is a worse crime.
Let him just first respond to that, then we go take it from there.
Yeah. We said in the recommendation 5.16, in view of the findings submitted by the government chemists, that the 2 samples tested positive for mercury, that is Moya Base, and Webuye West, and the obstruction of the University of Nairobi and the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, KEFIS, to validate the same findings through independent testing agencies, the relevant government agencies should immediately conduct further investigations on 1. Why the contracted institutions were denied access by multi-agency task force to the consignment or lots, and B, the circumstances leading to the contamination of sugar. We also had limited time. Hussein, you also have to appreciate, because ordinarily the NE has been in parliament. When a committee is given a task, they are usually given at least a minimum of 6 months.
So time was an issue for you?
Time definitely was an issue.
Okay.
You remember,
Hussein,
yeah, because the issue is on me. Initially, we were given 10 days to come up with this report. 10 days, my friend. 10 days was not enough for us to do this kind of investigation, owing to the fact that we are also relying on other agencies. We were given another 10 days and another 10 days. This is what we came up with, the limited time that we were given.
All right, Honorable Body, did you expect the parliamentary committee, do you think they have the capacity to go out there, get samples with the time they were given, get to know if actually, clearly they have not answered that, though he says they've answered that, if the sugar in the country is fit for human consumption?
Now,
I mean,
speaking as, yes,
I would have thought the first thing was to withdraw or recall sugar from the shelves. Nothing of that sort has happened. We're not even sure what sugar exactly has been tested. They've talked about samples taken by Ministry of Health, although there's some sugar that has been seized, but there's sugar that is in the country that is being consumed by Kenyans. So what did you expect them to do? You
know, Hussein, this exercise to me was very simple. There is a government official in the name of Fred Matiang'i who made allegations that there is sugar which is poisonous. What the committee was going to do was, to me, very simple. The committee didn't have to go in the entire country to look for this. They would have just asked the cabinet secretary, where is that sugar which has mercury? Then,
he came to us
just
and
a minute, just a minute. Let me finish, Mheshimiwa Kanini. If the cabinet secretary was not ready to answer them and give concrete reasons as to why he made that allegation, the committee should have reported back to Parliament that this is a hostile witness. The cabinet secretary has made an allegation that has destabilized the economy of this country. By the way, this was a very serious allegation. Then we would have taken action on a cabinet secretary who has misled the country that there is mercury in sugar and there isn't. Now, you cannot purport to be conducting investigation in the entire country, and the person who made the allegation, who should provide this information very quickly, because he said that the government chemist has tested, and which government chemist is under his watch. Then you come back and tell us that you are denied opportunity by multi-agency task force, and then you ask that you want them investigated. Why haven't you said that the cabinet secretary who made that allegation and who has gone ahead to have multi-agency task force refuse you to connect,
Hussein,
to be investigated? Where is that in the report?
No, Hussein, on that.
Why is this shit?
These recommendations are not cast on stone. When the committee recommends, it is the owners of the house to either make recommendations, alteration, or throw the document away. If he is genuine, or if he was genuine, he should have come up with that kind of a recommendation, and we would have adopted that recommendation of the floor of the House. But what did he do? He said no. He himself was the one who was defending C.S. Rotich very, very clearly, and saying that you cannot indict the CS. No. So if he if you were genuine in what you are saying, as a member of parliament, you are free to bring those kind of amendments, and we would have gladly accepted the recommendations. But now you cannot say that you are now talking as if you are not a member of parliament. Who has the powers to make any amendment on the recommendations
because
given?
You have been, I was actually going to ask him that question next. And you've said it here. You've been an MP for so long. You know all the procedures. Why didn't you make any recommendations?
This report, Hussein, was materially faulty, that you could not. It is irretrievable. Let me tell you, this report is irretrievable, because I look at the report on the basis of recommendations. Look, number one, all sugar that does not comply with the set standard and hence unfit for human consumption should be destroyed by the multi-agency task force. The same multi-agency task force that has refused them even admission. And by the way, it is too general.
Parliament was
number two.
Okay,
number two.
Before we go to number two, what is the problem with all sugar that is, as you say here, that do not comply with the standards be destroyed? What is wrong with that?
First, there is something wrong with it. There is a procedure of destroying goods in this country, which would require you even to go to court. This committee made recommendations within 21 days. It is not implementable. Number two, let me just...
You could have made amendments about this time. You could have made amendments.
You know, saying, you asked me why I couldn't. I'm saying all the recommendations. I would amend all the recommendations. And then, if a report is in such a way that all recommendations have to be amended, then the best thing to do is to send it back. And I would tell you, let me tell you, Hussein, if I were Honorable Kanini Kega, you would have withdrawn this report when he saw hostility in the House and reworked on it. Even his committee of 38 were not even present to debate.
Okay.
Part of that committee.
And I have a serious issue with that. Actually, I have a serious issue with that because the Speaker denied, because ordinarily, when a report is tabled, the first person who should be given the opportunity to respond is the owner of the petition. But what happened in this case? Duale was given the first opportunity to respond. Maybe he was the owner of the petition, and he was given the second opportunity. And then Naisula Lesuda was the third person. After that, 10 members who are clearly lined up and who are against...
Clearly lined up, what do you mean?
Yes.
How do you mean?
All of them.
I think that's unfair.
What do you mean lined up? Lined up in what sequence?
You know, ordinarily what happens on the floor of the House? Ordinarily, when you bring a report to the floor of the House, you give the members an opportunity at least to prosecute their case. None of my members was given an opportunity. And they were there. They were there on time.
You would blame the Speaker for that?
I don't know whether the Speaker or the system. Because, you know, these days, I have to react to this. We have IT system in Parliament. And for whatever reason...
So why would you say there was... no, I mean, now you're saying there was an IT system in Parliament.
So for whatever reason...
I have to ask you this question.
Let me qualify my statement.
Okay, qualify.
So for whatever reason, my members who ordinarily would have been given the first opportunity to at least support the report were not given an opportunity. They were not given.
Because you said there's a sequence.
In fact, after 10 members who were against the report, and the president was set by Duale and him, when they were through, another member came in and said, going by the mood of the House, can the mover be called to reply? Through the indulgence of the Speaker, I told the Speaker, Mr. Speaker, sir, please, because I have 30 minutes to respond, can I donate a few minutes to members who would support this report?
They were denied by the system or by the Speaker?
I hope you are going to give me...
They were denied by the system or the Speaker?
Maybe both of them.
Let me just...
You'll respond. I just want to dispense with one matter. Finally, you'll respond. Do you believe then, or what would you say? Do you regret anything, the time you're given? Because you're already now saying you had very limited time. Some of the questions in your TR were clearly not answered as well as they should have been. I mean, in retrospect, in hindsight,
yes.
Do you think you should have had more time, or what exactly should have happened?
Absolutely. I'm the one.
Did you call for more time?
Absolutely. Not once, but twice on the floor of the House. I saw the indulgence of the House, the leave of the House, so that we would be given 30 more days. The House. And especially, and I want to be very categorical because it is on the Hansard. Duale, the leader of majority, is the one who said that we cannot, because the matter is of national importance, we can't give you more time. We were not given sufficient time. And I believe, Hussein, I want to say this categorically, we were set up. We were actually set up for failure.
By who?
By whoever came up with the...
So you are admitting you failed?
I'm not saying that we failed. We didn't.
You just said you set up for failure.
We were actually set up for failure because we answered all the questions. Hussein...
You're set up for failure by who?
Let me say, the owner, the real owner of the petition. The real owner of the petition. And I will stop it at that. The real owner of the petition. But having said that, when I was moving my motion, when I was moving this report, I am telling you, there were no members who were listening. So there were a lot of not noise in Parliament, because in Parliament you don't make noise. No, there was a lot of high consultation.
The real owner is not Lesuda.
No, it's not Lesuda actually.
And is
how can you prove that?
Because she should have been the first person to respond and say whether she is comfortable with the report.
Who do you believe
or
was the
not.
real owner then?
The first person who spoke on after it was seconded, there's the other person.
Majority leader.
Absolutely.
Can I just make a comment?
Okay.
There are a lot of
because you think what? He has something to do with all this?
Absolutely.
Why would he have something to do
he
with
had
all this?
interest, and I think he had interest. He had other. He was looking for other questions because when let me prosecute my case, because when Lesuda read the statement the first time on the floor of the House, the leader of majority tabled a list of companies he wanted us to investigate, 4 companies. But for us as a committee, we decided to go for all the companies. The leader of majority wanted us to focus on 4 companies. And you know, we imported 1 million metric tons of sugar. The 4 companies imported less than 200,000 metric tons of sugar. So we went for the entire team. And I think that is where we made the mistake. We should have just concentrated on the 4 companies that the leader. Yeah, maybe I'm saying maybe that is where we erred. Okay. Maybe we should have just concentrated on the 4 companies.
All right.
And then maybe the report would have been accepted on the floor of the House. But let me say this, because we have to be very honest.
You'll respond. I'll give you time.
We have to be very honest on this. We Kenyans were taken for a ride.
With the whole process.
For the whole process. Because
including what your committee did.
No. What we did what was supposed to be done. But when I was talking about there is no mercury, nobody was listening. It is very unfortunate that we are prosecuting the issue on a national television as opposed to us prosecuting the issue on the floor of the House, where we are elected to do that.
It goes without saying that the majority leader, of course, is not in this debate. So those are your allegations against him. Of course, we'll also get to hear what he'll say about that. Honorable Party.
First of all, I want to put it that I don't think it is right if you don't get your way that you drag the whole institution in the mud, and especially now bringing in the Speaker. I don't really agree that the Speaker had a predetermined way of calling members. First, it should be understood that the standing orders is very clear that when a motion is moved, then it is moved, and the first person with the priority to speak, there is no exception, whether you the one who sought for the statement or not, is the leader of majority. Then the leader of minority. That is predictable. It is already in our standing orders. And by the way, it is borrowed from Article 108 of the Constitution, the precedence in the House. But besides that, Hussein, it is not true that it is Duale who first spoke to this motion. The first person to speak to the motion was Gladys Wanga. In fact, immediately the Speaker finished, he moved, and it was seconded by Wangwe. The Speaker said that there is a proposed amendment he wants to dispose of. And so Honorable Wanga spoke first, and I was the first person to contribute to the amendment by Wanga. It was not even Duale. So when we finished with the amendment, then Duale came in now to speak to the motion. When Duale finished, I spoke next. Then Lesuda was brought in third. And I think that to me is the correct order. So,
but he said it's the Honorable...
But listen, Hussein, you gave Kanini Kega too much time. Please give me time. Part of the recommendations in this report, one of the recommendations, you know, the only sugar importer which this joint committee found in their own wisdom to indict and even ask to be surcharged in a way is Sony Sugar. The rest of all these sugar barons have been let off the hook. And you can see the Directorate of Criminal Investigation and Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission should investigate the alleged irregular transaction between South Nyanza Sugar Company and all the companies the other companies for the alleged tax evasion of approximately 2.5 billion shillings. Hussein, just because Sony Sugar applied to be allowed to import sugar, they imported 6 days after the Gazette notice ended. You want to have Sony Sugar to be surcharged, because that is what this recommendation is saying in a sense, and you're leaving all the sugar barons who are destroying our sugar. And then, then when I see MPs even from our region saying that this report is good for farmer, I ask, who's farmer? If Sony Sugar is the one of the sugar millers close to my constituency is being asked. In fact, this one would even wind up Sony Sugar. Then you are telling me that I should...
Why? You expected some barons to be there.
The sugar barons are not here.
I mean, this is a committee that did its work.
The recommendation is here. Only Sony Sugar is under
you expected personally some barons to be there.
Exactly.
This is a committee of parliament. I'm sure you trusted them to do their job.
Yes.
They've come up.
Can I tell you why I expected them?
Yes.
Page 35.
Okay.
Page 35 is very clear to me, that page 35 of the report is very clear to me that, I don't know whether it is page 35, but under observation. Let me just go to observation.
You know the okay. Just tell us the essence of what you wanted to say.
The essence of what I'm saying is,
yes.
This committee discovered that about 705,000 bags of sugar, which was unfit for human consumption, was actually meant for further processing, but was like released to the market. They have not indicted those. There must become entities which imported that sugar. Where is the recommendation on those entities?
Why didn't you make an
amendment? It is actually
like
here.
That? Why didn't you make such
let me tell you, Hussein, I could not amend.
You have the right to do that. You would have done
I
that.
would not waste my time proposing amendments to a report that has a lot of faults.
Okay. I mean, we'll definitely have this discussion for a longer.
I am exhibiting a lot of ignorance.
Which ignorance? Just tell me.
The fact, because
tell me which are the companies. Just tell me. This is 705.
Can I read for you?
Which are the companies?
Okay.
Which imported the
sugar? All right, and I'll really
to me all the companies.
Okay, gentlemen.
You have accepted yourself that your report was faulty.
Let's have some order. Clearly, we cannot dispense with the whole report. We've tried as much as we can, but we're taking a lot of time. But this conversation we'll have in days to come. Now we're talking about three options or schools of thought in Parliament. Either we introduce the report for debate or start an entirely new inquiry. I don't know where you stand with that. I mean, Kenyans still need an answer. What do you think should happen? Very briefly.
My view is this. This committee should take this report and request the Speaker, after doing what I would call ukarabati, proper ukarabati, then they can request the Speaker to allow the reintroduction under Standing Order 49 of this report to Parliament. But that should happen after some weeks. I don't think with the environment we are in, Hussein, that if you bring this report...
The danger is after some weeks, this also could also be forgotten.
Hussein, the report that we gave to Kenyans is credible. It's unfortunate that Parliament decided to throw the baby with the bathwater.
You've said in this interview that it was time-barred. You've also said that you are set up for failure.
Yes, but the reason I'm saying that is because we answered all the questions, but the answers that they wanted were not in the report.
What should happen next?
So basically,
Yes.
What was the source of the contraband?
Wait. What should happen? We have said clearly even where the sugar came from. So, Buddy, please read the document.
Where, my friend? Where is it in the recommendation? Don't tell me about annexures.
Okay, wait, Buddy. Let me because annexures are part of the document.
Okay.
You have to mention that is substantive enough. It can only...
Way forward. You know, they dropped the report. Completely dropped the report. We can either decide to forget about the issue, or as he is saying, or here, as he is saying, it can be revisited. But I don't see a lot of changes, because the issues that brought Bandi and Duale to reject this report, in my view, was because we mentioned the issue of cabinet secretaries, and that is exactly what he said, that we have indicted, and actually we did not indict cabinet secretaries.
I respond to that?
We actually said that they be investigated. So basically,
but
is not lost.
He has brought a very important...
you talked about it before. You talked about it before.
Yeah.
We'll have to wind it up.
All is not lost. All is not lost. The committee...
But you yourself proposed amendments to your report. I've never seen that in the history of Parliament.
I don't understand why
we'll need more days in the coming days.
Let me tell you, I want to tell Kenyans that sugar ceased, that is under seizure.
Yes.
Because there is sugar under seizure that was tested not to be and found not to be fit. We have said that it has to be destroyed in an open place. Secondly,
in the meantime,
the sugar that was found to be fit should be released into the market. The reason why should that be
done even if you don't say?
Listen, because the cost of sugar now is going up.
Okay, and I'll have to wind it up there.
So
I'm sorry, I have to cut you short.
Our report is believable.
This is no report.
It's okay.
The only problem Kenyans face tonight is that a lot of questions for them still remain unanswered. And many would actually think or thought, and critics have said, that this entire process reeks of a plan from everyone involved, and people actually talking about Parliament to have or not to have any action taken on this issue of sugar, both sides, not his side only. All sides.
It is,
That is what is being said.
The ones who failed Kenya.
Kenya should maybe hope now for the other government agencies to do something about it. We'll have to wind it up there. Please go read the report as a viewer wherever you are. Thank you very much for making time for us, both of you tonight.
We gave this guy a
And we are still friends, by the way.
All right, we'll be back after this break.